Indian Ocean, security and growth for all. Security and growth for all. And to discuss this, we have with us Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, retired Director General, National Maritime Foundation, and Yogendra Kumar, former senior diplomat. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Admiral Chauhan, let me start with you. What kind of theater has the Indian Ocean become? How critical is it for global trade and geopolitics at the current time?
Thank you very much. First of all, for having me on the panel. The Indian Ocean is today an arena in which there are simultaneous activities going on in the competitive field, in the collaborative endeavor, in the cooperative mechanisms that are being formulated, and there is always a risk right now of a confrontationist requirement that might emerge thanks to the ambitions and the somewhat rash rise of some of the powers within the Indo-Pacific. So I think that the Indian Ocean is now an area of some turbulence. It is a hugely significant area in terms of economics and the global pendulum of strategic and economic power has shifted decisively into this ocean.
Ambassador Yogendra Kumar, how would you assess the Indian Ocean region from the diplomatic point of view, looking at, let's say this is a region which has also a huge population, about 3 billion people almost, taking South Asia, the Middle East, all these other countries that are, that are affected by the Indian Ocean. How would you say that, why is it important for India to be playing such an important role in the Indian Ocean region?
Well, thank you, Mark. First of all,
yes.
Greetings on the day. The Indian Ocean, of course, is in a way the lifeline for India's growth,
yes.
India's development, India's civilizational mission, if I may put it quite like that. The fact of the matter is that currently the power equilibrium is something which actually suits India at the moment as things are presently, which wasn't the case, let's say, a few decades ago. But this particular power equilibrium is coming under threat in different ways. One, of course, has already been mentioned about the fact that the geopolitical competition actually is hotting up. But also at the same time, there is no, at the moment, no effective overarching organization which actually can govern the maritime order, so to say, or to stabilize the maritime order.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that you, of course, have a maritime let's say governance system in terms of US Navy and so on and so forth, but they're actually geared for their geopolitical objective, which actually are in a way over. Now what you need actually are challenges of ecology, challenges of economy, challenges of the epidemic. And now what you find is that unless what you call the non-traditional kind of security
yes.
challenges for the region, which is really what the Prime Minister's Sagar speech actually in 2015 was actually all about. Of course, it was security architecture, but security architecture cannot be stabilized unless the development and other kind of challenges which the region faces, they actually are taken care. And there are several of them. And in fact, we
yes.
have one or two organizations like the International Association, some other affiliate
yes.
Bodies, but they still have not yet taken that kind of a overarching role where you can stabilize the entire region, the littoral, the island states,
right.
and so on and so forth, stabilize them in such a way that actually this region actually does become a kind of a growth model for
okay.
the 21st century. So I would briefly put it that this is in sum and substance what the current challenges are for all of us.
Indeed. Admiral Chauhan, so there obviously, because of the, these associations and these groupings don't actually have actual control over the Indian Ocean region. There will be a lot of powers that are vying for control or influence in the region. And that's where, naval forces play a much more significant role. How would you say, India is considered a net security provider in this region. Does that, require India to work, with the best interests of all the nations in the region? And also, there are other competing interests from other states that India needs to sort of neutralize.
Well, first of all, the Indian model is based upon upon the belief that all economies must rise with an economic tide. That means all must rise with the tide. It is simply unthinkable for India to have its economy riding on some crest while the neighboring economies are wallowing in some unhappy trough.
Yes.
Secondly, we are firm believers as a country, as a navy, we are firm believers in the somewhat famous comment by Zoltan Mertze, who said that money is a coward. Money does not go where there is excessive turbulence and risk. And the question is, do we need money? Of course. Yeah. Why do we need money? Because our core national interest is the economic, the material, and the societal well-being of the people of India. And that requires that we maintain a stable environment, geographical environment, within which this money flow can take place. One more point. These centuries that lie ahead of us, at least a couple of them, are going to be centuries of the sea, whether this is a function of economic trade in the more traditional manner, energy flows, or futuristic movements towards harnessing new forms of mineral resources.
Yes.
Either India is going to be a maritime power.
Okay.
We're not going to be any kind of power at all. Now, when I say maritime power, I'm not talking about naval power alone. Today is Navy Day, and I'm extraordinarily proud of the fact that I belong to the Indian Navy veteran community right now, but with 4 decades of service behind me. However, what I am saying is that maritime is more than the Navy Coast Guard amalgam, just as security is more than the military security paradigm alone.
Yes.
And what Sagar means. That is what Sagar requires. Now comes the issue of balance and various nations trying to find overarching influence mechanisms.
Yes.
I think, first of all, we must give adequate weightage to the one mechanism that exists, which is for all the navies, the 35, 37 navies of this particular oceanic space. We already have the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, which was set up in 2008, and it is not limited to navies, but it is the principal maritime security agencies of the countries involved. This provides us with the executive layer. That means the ones who will actually do the doing. Above this lie a political layer, and I think IORA or IORA Plus may well fit the bill there. Above that lies a conceptual underpinning, and that conceptual underpinning is comprising Sagar, which has already been expanded, and the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. This is our construct, and I think it's a good one.
So indeed, so you brought in the concept of the Indo-Pacific, which is actually brought more light back onto the Indian Ocean once again. But the concern, Ambassador Yogendra Kumar, is that China has been engaging with littoral states in the region and islands, and has been developing, a sort of a relationship that is changing the state of play to a large extent. You did talk about the theme of the Indian Ocean Conference, which is about ecology, economy, and the epidemic. But really, I mean, China has changed the way this region is operating, and that's why, I mean, we have the Quad now. We have France operating in the western, on the eastern Indian Ocean, and we are operating in the other part of the Indian Ocean. So how do you look at all this?
That China is expanding its economic footprint, is only natural that they will actually be coming to areas where they think they need to be present, even to the extent that they want to protect their economic presence or footprint. So the Prime Minister said in Sagar's speech that we have no problem any navy or any country actually coming into the Indian Ocean, provided they play by the international rules. That's the first point. The second thing is that the Chinese role in a way has been such to invest in countries which have been economically and politically fragile. So this is, we talk about the debt trap, but we also talk about investment in areas which are actually not sustainable. So what actually it means basically is this, that by contributing to the instability of the emerging political order, maritime order in the Indian Ocean, actually they are not doing such a great service. Whereas as far as India is concerned, because of the fact that India is not seen as a threat by any of the countries, I would say most of the countries, perhaps maybe one or two exceptions are there, but most countries are quite comfortable dealing with India. An Indian approach actually is such that we engage with these countries in terms of this economic sustainability, in terms of their political sustainability, and in terms of adding to the literal effort
Yes.
to actually transit the economies towards the green and the blue economy, which is actually again a major challenge, because this one challenge is emerging actually from the ocean, whether it's ocean warming or ocean acidification or all kinds of things are happening, whether it is cyclonic, increasing frequency of cyclones and so on and so forth. So the point actually here is this, that we actually, this is the effort which is required, let's say, by the literal countries, and India is in a position to play that role. And I can actually mention that, for example, even in the case of the COVID pandemic, it was India which took the initiative along with Norway and the Gates Foundation for the WHO's COVAX initiative program as an example. So my point that I'm trying to make actually is, this is the way you actually share your experience. This is the way you actually stabilize. Because if you destabilize, let's say, a country, or the country becomes increasingly fragile, then the capacity of that country to handle the current challenges, which go far beyond simple, let's say, weighing up the military strength of different countries. They go into the question as to how we're going to handle issues like climate change, how we're going to handle issues like developing sustainable development.
And those also have an impact on the military component. I'm sure about that. Let me bring in for a final word from you, Admiral Chauhan. The fact is that the buildup of military assets is becoming inevitable with so many players. How do you look at this? I mean, is it at the end of the day going to be providing peace, or there's going to be an escalation?
Well, first of all, you must appreciate one thing, that in this whole military build-up, as you put it, one fundamental point is this, that as far as India is concerned, while within the maritime zones of India, within our exclusive economic zone, etc., the Indian Navy will operate seamlessly in complete coordination with the Indian Coast Guard and with a host of other maritime security agencies beyond the maritime zones of India, that means beyond 200 nautical miles of our exclusive economic zone. The Indian Navy is the sole maritime manifestation of the sovereign power of our republic. Now that might sound like a mouthful, but it is absolutely true. And therefore, the strengthening of the Indian Navy is not merely being done in material terms, which is simple, and it is quite evident. It is also being done in capability terms, which means that how good are we at skilling? How good are we at organizing? How good are we at creating stabilization structures across the region? The real way of handling China, for example, the only real way is for us as a country to stitch this region together. And when we do the COVID diplomacies that we have done, when we do the repatriation operations that the Indian Navy has done, remember that if you didn't have this sort of Navy, you couldn't have done the COVID stuff that you did. You couldn't have done the climate change efforts.
Absolutely. So there has been this coordination has finally come to, I mean, it has worked because of the fact that all these countries are working very closely with each other. Thank you very much, Admiral Pradeep Chauhan and Ambassador Yogendra Kumar, for joining us and enlightening us on this subject. And let's go across live now to